Greetings and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jarvis, and with me as always is a man who blows me up while mining, Lightning Dragon.
Always.
I'm not being next to you anymore.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't need your help anymore.
I'm standing behind you, but then the ship will probably fly over and smack me in the face.
I am the expert miner.
Alright, so let's get into Star Citizen news. This week, around the verse in 5 minutes or less. There was some community uproar about this, but they did say that they were going to start trying different formats and more focused and shorter shows. So I say relax on this a little bit, let them experiment and try different things. They're doing what they said they were going to do, so, you know, just kind of wait it out. I don't.
Oh, that's a new one. Isn't them doing what they're going to say?
Yeah, you're right, but let's not interrupt that trend. That might spread. But shows with smaller, more focused bites, they're fine. And also, I think, frankly, this is a little bit to counter all those, well, kind of, for lack of better words, noobifier kind of videos where everyone summarizes all their work that they've done in, 2 minutes or less. And it's one of those things that I think it's got to be irritating. And as a video creator, it would be irritating to spend 8-10 hours on a video, maybe even more, and then have someone come in and just basically say, word for word, pretty much cut down all the highlights. And that's like one of the reasons that I decided to change the format, like on the Calling All Devs most times, just to talk about the things that we find important. This week's a bit of exception because all of it was interesting, but generally speaking...
Not everything, but a lot of it.
Yeah, we try to basically just focus on like, hey, this is what was interesting to us, because I don't want to be just a recycler of information. In an attempt to not just recycle the information on Around the Verse, let's just go into some of the things that we found interesting in it. So, in Around the Verse, the part that I found interesting was when they were showing them attacking the satellite system.
Oh, yes.
And they're flying around and around, and they were shooting this thing. It was kind of, it's hysterical, frankly, because you can really kind of see the disconnect on the flight model when you watch that. And they're sitting there getting shot, and they're getting beat up on, and they're tanking with a Gladius, and they're shooting. It was really bad. I'm like, nah, you really probably got to pick better footage than that, but maybe not. I don't know. But
just round and round in circles, just blasting this thing.
Yeah, exactly. And just if that doesn't show you some of the disconnect on the flight, on the way that they've oriented flight in the game, I don't know what will. I'll play that footage from Around the Verse in the background. Some of it anyway. Some of it I didn't clip out, but you can kind of see what it was about. If you want to watch the full thing, 5 minutes or less.
No, we're gonna have that one clip of them spinning around in circles for the entire episode. That's the entire background. Just kidding. Or am I?
So let's get into Reverse the Verse. There are a lot of questions asked, and for starters, I'd like to say that the new, less formal format was more enjoyable. I like when you kind of go back to the roots of how shows were done originally in Star Citizen, them sitting in the computer room just recording and people walking by randomly. I don't know, it had a much better feel to it. And there was even... And someone had a still of it. I'm not going to go look it up because I can't remember where it was. Someone in the background stood up and gave the bird, like, it was in the frame. It looked like they gave the bird. Someone had a post there going, like, you win the internet or something like that. Or something along the lines of, this proves that it was live or something. Anyway, so outside of that, there were some questions, and there were a few of them I wanted to go over that I found interesting. Now, for those of you who have purchased weapons in the UEC store, they're looking for a fix that basically when you lose those weapons in the persistent universe, that they can still be reclaimed. Right now, basically, if you were to take a weapon that you have, that you purchased with UEC, and you put it on a ship, and your ship blows up, that weapon is gone. The same thing kind of happens with ground weapons. Like if you have a subscriber perk weapon, or whatever, and it's in your hands and you get shot and you die, that weapon is gone until basically they reset everything. So hopefully we see that coming soon, because it's really one of the reasons that I'm always like, I don't want to pull out my weapons out because I'm afraid, oh, there goes my gold sniper rifle.
I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
The 300 series rework has started.
How many times has that started? Just the one?
Well, this is, I really hope that they go with the 85X kind of aesthetic. That would be amazing. The 300 series definitely has first ship itis. It's been that way for a while. I really look forward.
It's why I upgraded away from it into... Well, I upgraded away from it into the Cutlass, and then I upgraded from that to the Connie.
Yeah, and eventually you just got a Hornet Ghost, so... Yeah,
then I got that. I think it was on one of the ship sale weekends or something. Anniversary sale, maybe.
Now, Face over IP is going to be linked to Voice over IP. From what they were saying, it does sound like that if you're using something like TrackIR, that if you're talking through a microphone, that your mouse should still move, You just won't have the expressions and whatnot. That's how I imagine the real difference is going to be. But they did state that the face-over IP is not going to be as good for combat as Track IR. Now, here's the thing. I don't even want Track IR to be used for combat. I want to look around. I don't want it tied to weaponry. I think that's a bad decision. There's been very few people who can pull it off. Hydra Big Bang was one that could pull it off. But the thing is that I think most people who have a face tracking or head tracking orientation, what they want to do is be able to look around in the cockpit and get that extra level immersion. They don't want to go full VR like myself. I want to see my keyboard. I want to see my equipment. To me, putting on a VR headset is not something that's ideal. If combat's not your concern, then there's really probably not going to be too much difference between the two of these things.
No, all we need is to follow the red arrow.
Indeed.
I mean, we don't want to have, no HUD or any little icons over the enemies. We just want a red arrow and a giant shoot here button.
Mark Abent came on the show and announced that Bug Smashers is on hiatus while they're focusing on 3.3. It may come back later. They want to focus on getting all the important stuff done that 3.3 needs. And Mark Abent has actually been moved to a lead gameplay programmer, which is actually probably a pretty good thing in some regards because he knows what breaks the game, so he can kind of help them not do that. Preemptive bug smashing.
I hope that they work on stuff for latency in 3.3.
Well, yeah, it's the primary thing. If nothing else happens in 3.3, what they want the most is the container system and data calling. That is the number one thing. I mean, everything else can basically die in a fire, according to the way Chris Roberts made it sound. Is like those two things have to happen because without them, there can be no Stanton system. So all the things that they've been building will sit in La La Land without those and just be waiting until they're finished. So yeah, that's going to happen. I have a feeling that's going to be their focus without a doubt.
Good.
Let's move over to calling all devs. An unusual one because I actually was interested in every question.
You're never interested in my questions.
They suck.
I don't know where that came from. It's just the first thing that came to my mind.
Alright, as far as Item System 2.0 implementation, the things left to convert are still the thrusters, the countermeasures, the missiles, and the negative effects of item degradation. That interests me because I thought that I didn't realize there was that much left. I figured that most of it would be in, maybe just not turned on, but I guess that's still a lot more development time going in on that.
Look at so much random stuff they've been making over the years. It's got to be a huge mess.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversion. Now, someone had asked, why do some ships travel in quantum drive faster than others? It was stated that this is based on the size of the drive. So like a larger ship may take longer to enter into quantum drive. Eventually, if it's a long enough of a trip past the ships that launched before it with a smaller drive, because it's faster in that travel. I thought this was interesting because I remember repeatedly that they kept saying that quantum drive was 0.2 light speed, and in the lore it talks a bit about that. The idea that different qualities and stuff will raise your speed. That was different. I wasn't expecting that. See, I would have expected higher qualities would take less fuel or have less spool up time, but I wasn't expecting speeds to change. So I guess in some regards, it's good that the large ships arrive before the fighters, or it could be very bad.
I'd say it'd be bad. I mean, you should. For me, I thought it was actually 0.3. I don't know why that sticks in my mind. But, I mean, if it was like, oh, well, all the quantum drive we have right now isn't even at, 0.2 or 0.3, and that's where you have the variance. I mean, if they came out and said that, oh, well, that makes perfect sense. But, I mean, it should be some kind of factor of the type in there, and either less fuel, faster spool up time. Maybe it is very fuel hungry, but it's the fastest one. It will do the 0.3, but it's for only certain ships kind of fit that. Like maybe the fighter would have one that's not as fast, but you can get a 0.3 or 0.21 at the cost of less total quantum fuel travel because it's consuming more.
I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I could see maybe slower, but it's interesting because I mean. That at least means they're flexible. So maybe as these systems get fleshed out and, people don't want to travel. I mean, I do, but some people may not want to travel for 2-3 hours to get where they're going. Maybe they'll start, reevaluating their speeds. But that's going to be part of the balancing.
As fast as possible, with as little fuel used as possible. That's
well,
me.
You want to make the Kessel run in 18 parsecs or whatever.
I want to do it in 14 parsecs.
There you go. Someone asked if we can get a no respawn mode in AC with no power-ups. The power-ups have been taken out of all the other modes but the swarm modes. And the way he was talking about it is they don't know if they want to go back and retool a lot of AC due to the levels of activity in there being so low. Yeah, there's a reason for that. They're also talking about how the map sizes are so small. I'm not exactly sure how it relates to except maybe that, if you want to bring larger ships in, they need more room to maneuver. I've talked about the Arena Commander's map size, how it should have been massively increased. I always thought it would be interesting to even just have a single moon as part of the Arena Commander map, because you could go down to the planet and whatnot. You could have different goals and objectives in different areas. I always thought the 8x8 box was really just too restricting to allow a lot of tactics and a lot of different game types.
Not to mention it got smaller and smaller over the years because it kept making the ships go faster and faster.
Exactly, yeah. That's one of the reasons they originally increased the size, is because they doubled the speeds, and then as these acceleration rates and things keep going up, it really effectively does make it feel like it's shrinking on you. Maybe that's their own version of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
As the more you play, your ships get faster and faster. Don't worry, we have plenty of thrust values for them.
Oh yeah. Now, since the Hammerhead is on the schedule for 3.3, someone had asked how the missions are going to scale for larger ships. And what the dev had said is that they're not doing mission scaling anymore in most circumstances. Now, for those of you who've been around since 2.0, you know that if you had gone into a mission by yourself, there'd be like a ship. And if a friend was in your ship, there'd be two ships, which was always frustrating. And
unless he's just a passenger.
Yeah, exactly. So it would scale it to how many people were there, sometimes ridiculously so. So what they've done instead is basically the missions are what they are, and if you bring more people, then it just becomes easier. Now, if you have a larger ship like the Hammerhead, new missions will be available for you while you're in that ship. That makes sense to me. I have no problems with that. They said the only ones that still scale are the pirate encounters. When they pull you out interdiction, they need to be strong enough to have been willing to have pulled you out interdiction to begin with. You're not going to see some pirate in an Aurora pull a Hammerhead out, though that would be funny as hell. Alright, so I took Lightning Dragon out for the first time and let him fly my Prospector. I had to add that Prospector part, I don't want you all to get the wrong idea. And decided to let him do mining, so I wanted to get some of his thoughts on the mining experience outside of the weird bugs we had.
Oh, the bugs were the best part. Okay, so serious mode then. Obviously, you had to explain these things, and I don't know how much of the footage, because I actually recorded some of it. I don't know how much you want to show, because it's kind of boring.
At least to the point where you kill me.
Yeah. But it's not enough feedback, and unless I had watched a show that went through it and said, do this, do this, do this, do this, and now you should be mining, it was incredibly unintuitive to me for someone who's not done anything. And so Jarvis is like, press this. Oh, well, it's not doing anything. Great. So you get back into the ship and you mess with it. And it's like, okay, well, it's working for me, and I'm seeing it. It's like, oh yeah, well, I see it now, but it didn't do that for me.
I think that was latency issues. There was all sorts of latency issues.
Yeah, I'm sure that part was latency. But then just changing between the mining mode and scanning mode, it was absolutely unintuitive. So when we got to the point where I actually was mining the rock, and I figured out which rock to mine, because I'm blasting this rock like, what the hell's going on? And then it's like, oh, this is the rock I have to mine. And then the interface comes up, which is, again, a very informative and uninformative screen. Because on the left side, you have, power, where you should be mining, where you shouldn't be mining, where mining is not going to do anything. And again, there's a latency thing where I'm scrolling the mouse up, and it goes from 4% to 5%, then 10%, when I only need it to be at 4.5 or 5. And it's like, well, why'd you go up that much? So you scroll it back down, and it drops down to 3. And a lot of that could just be latency on the server, which is another reason why they need to fix this stuff, because you can't have that for or you have to have a bigger grace period for your mining. It's too delicate of a process for interaction between server and client. It's too much of a delay or something. But the other important information about when the rock's going to blow up, or when you're done mining the rock, is way on the other side of the screen. I mean, if they're gonna be, all important, I want them all in the same spot. Because I don't have to look to the right and look to the left and then look to the right and look to the left. I actually mined the very first rock without even knowing what the hell was on the right side of the screen, because it didn't flash at me. They're all a white color. They're the same as the UI, which is another problem
because like if as the rock gets hotter and it starts to glow, and if you're positioned a certain way, because once again the holographic transparent UI, you can't see it anymore.
Yeah, but like the actual drill interface, that you actually have colors. There's green and red, which unfortunately colorblind issues, so you need to be able to have that. I'm not colorblind, so it doesn't really affect me, but that 1 out of 100 people are colorblind or something. It's actually quite a lot, I guess. But the fact is, it actually has color, so it sticks out of the entire just plain white UI. So having them all in the same spot would be nicer, because then you can look at it and be like, oh, I'm almost done mining, and oh geez, I need to stop mining for a bit because the rock's heating up too much and it's going to blow up.
Yeah, I guess I should have told you that basically you can turn the mining laser off when you get to that critical level. Would have saved my life.
And the ship too, because for me, I just scrolled the mouse wheel down because it's like, oh, I need to lower the power, because I barely even saw that other screen. And in fact, in the recording, it looks like I lost some frames because the server stuff, right? The game kind of locked up. But from what I recorded, I didn't hit 100% on the rock explosion thing. I was at like 98 or something, and it started like going down, and then all of a sudden just blew up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when I got wiped out.
Yeah, and then the ship went into spin-dry tumble mode.
Now, aside from obviously the latency bug issues and the UI issues, I mean, the basic mechanic in itself, what do you think of the basic idea of the throttling and the things like that?
The throttling I actually think is a pretty good idea. I actually don't like when you have to switch to a different mode to extract. I thought that was, again, I mean, it's not like in your face, like, oh, swap, modes or whatever. And there's no feedback for the user. I mean, if you weren't there telling me what to do, I'd have absolutely no idea how to mine unless I went to Google and went, just mining in Star Citizen, or I went to the Star Citizen YouTube page and they were showing it, because you're in a mining ship. Imagine if this is a real thing. So if you are employed at a mine, you have no job experience, but that's fine because they'll teach you. So you go and show up at your job, the mine, and they say, all right, get into this really expensive mining thing, sit in this chair, all right, this is how you mine things, and then they left.
Lunch is at noon, and there's breaks here and here, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, and then the rock blew up because they didn't tell you how to mine properly. I mean, that's their fault. So the ship should have some kind of like, I hate to say tutorial, but the ship should have some kind of feedback telling you those things are good and bad. To someone who's mined a lot or played it a lot, having that like flashing on your screen, like, warning, heat high. If you played the game a lot, that's just annoying because because you've experienced that. But if you're brand new, it'd be like, oh crap, turn laser off, and it should yell at you, and you should have warning lights and things. The switching, again, and we'll touch on that again because I watched Toppets pretty quick. I don't like that you have to switch to a different drill mode. I'd much prefer if it was the same drill interface, but your power levels were different, or maybe you had to, maybe just breaking down the rock, you have a bigger grace period. Well, you can, run it like 50% or, 40%, and it'll just break down a little bit slower or something. But when you get down to, actually getting the resources, you have a smaller, make sure you're extra careful here, between 6% and 8% or something. You have a much tighter
what you're saying is that basically you think that instead of having the separate mining laser, that they should also, the harvesting right now for the most part, once you've got to the point where you're harvesting, you just point at it
and you get it,
and then you get it. What you're saying is that there should be, not you've broken it down, there should be something that requires a certain level of maintenance and skill to now extract.
Yeah, because as it is right now, it's overcomplicated for no reason. Because once you get the ore broken, you just press whatever button it was, I don't even remember, and then you wait and you just get the ore. If you're gonna have it that way, don't even have us switch modes. Just give us the ore at that point. Oh, you broke the rock. Here's the ore. Because that's basically what it is. It's
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I had to clarify there because I think I see where you're going with that. Yeah, it's like one side of it is like interactive and the other side is waiting.
Yeah, it's just additional steps and waiting. So that part I don't care for.
Yeah,
if
it's
a
good thought. I hadn't even considered that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, if they switched it over to using the same laser, but you had a finer control mode, you're using like between 1 and maybe 10% at the most. You're in that very, very small range where if you're just blasting a rock, you can be up at 70% if it's a big rock, because it's just a rock, you don't care. But when you're trying to get that ore, you dial the power back, so you have a smaller window, and have it where it's a ticking ore count, not just like boop, you have 200 ore after X amount of seconds. Have it like every 1 to 5 seconds, you get a certain percentage of the ore. So if it's a really big deposit and you're in a hurry, just like, whatever, run at 10%, and boo, 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 you get like 50% of the ore, and then the rest gets burned away, but you don't care if it's like a cheap ore. That would be a lot more interesting of a mechanic. And again, like you brought up, it'd be more skill-based as long as you didn't have that latency.
Interesting thoughts. Some things I didn't even consider. So yeah, I would agree. The second part is lacking in the input skill, and I know this is a tier 0. Maybe we'll see something more added to that, but I would agree. I think the second half should match the first half as far as interactivity. Good ideas. All right, so later this week, we're going to be doing more DCS practice. I think I'm starting on day 28. I hopefully can get to day 30 this week. It all depends on all these different things going on, projects, real life, works, so on and so forth.
So much stuff.
Now, I did actually, partially for the show and partly for a few months, Lightning's birthday, I got him a Track IR because playing DCS without one is not easy.
No, it's really not.
Yeah, I think my brother is getting one as well. So hopefully then that will expose them to how much different the game is once you can actually look around the cockpit. It's a huge difference.
Opposed to tapping a hat switch to have locked fixed directions.
Yeah, that's a huge disadvantage. But before the DCS video comes out, Lightning has put together an interesting video where we show off a more realistic Hornet, and also he built a freelancer in Kerbal to show, with the values that you have from Star Citizen database, a little bit more of the disconnect between the thrust values and what Star Citizen is doing with their engine. Chaos does ensue.
Always. That's the entire game of KSP.
Chaos Space Program.
Pretty much. With a K, because it's Kerbal way.
Also, a few people from my Discord have started working on a project to demonstrate the over-the-top accelerations for Star Citizen. What they're doing is they're reducing the saturation, which is basically, for those who don't know, at 100% saturation, when you move your stick or whatever all the way over, you're turning at 100%. Say like 30% saturation, when you move the stick all the way to the right, you'd only be turning at 30%. So what they're trying to do is get numbers on how quickly these ships are actually turning, and possibly, maybe, find a sweet spot where how far down the saturation line do they have to go where the ships actually start handling in a much more reasonable way. We'll have to see how that project goes. That's completely their thing. MHE and Hano are doing that. I don't know how long it's going to take them. Could be days, could be weeks, could be months. I don't know. That's on them. If they want to do it, I'll be happy to put it out and have them on to discuss it if they want.
If my KSP testing has shown anything, they probably want to start at between 5 and 10% of actual values and then work their way up.
Yeah, I think they were trying at 30 initially and they were still blacking out. It was just amazing. All right, everyone. Well, that's about it for this week's BlastCast. As always, leave your comments and suggestions down below. We will read them. Well, I will read them. I can't guarantee what Lightning's going to do. I don't control him. I'm not the boss of him.
I read them sometimes. It just depends.
That's true. He's moody.
I forget is what it is. I'm forgetful.
Catch you in the next one.
Bye-bye, everybody.